Hello students, today I am going to take a class on some of the acquired heart defects. There are 3 acquired heart defects that I am going to teach you today, that is on rheumatic fever, congestive cardiac failure and infective endocarditis. Rheumatic fever is it is acute rheumatic fever. It is an autoimmune inflammatory process that develops as a sequelae of streptococcal infection of throat and skin. So as a result of group A beta hemolytic streptococci, this is the main causative organism causing throat or skin infections. As a result of this, preceding this infection, they can have this rheumatic fever. The incidence is between 5 to 15 years. This is a self-limiting illness that involves the joints, skin, brain, serous surfaces such as the pleura and all that, and heart. It mainly causes cardiac valve damage, especially the mitral valve, and when it involves the heart and the valves, it results in rheumatic heart disease. It is a common cause of heart failure. The pathophysiology is any of these infection caused by streptococcal infection such as group A beta hemolytic streptococci causing infection can lead to swelling and alteration in the connective tissues such as the heart, the brain, the blood vessels and the serous surfaces of the joints and pleura. As you can see in the picture, any infection of the, as you can see it here, any infection in the throat or in the skin, it can cause inflammation in the joints, it can affect the heart, the brain and the skin. Now there is something, how do we diagnose or what are the clinical manifestations? There is something called Jones criteria. There are major and minor manifestations. The major manifestations, there are 5. One is the polyarthritis. So children will typically present with migratory inflammation of the large joints. As you can see, mainly the knee joint, the elbows, the hip joint, shoulder and wrist are affected. They can have swollen, hot, red and painful joints, as you can see in this picture. Migratory is nothing but, so maybe on the first week they can have pain over the knee, maybe by second or third day they will have pain over the elbows, and then they can come down to the hip. So it keeps changing and migrating, or that is called migratory inflammation. The second one is carditis, that is inflammation of the heart muscle. As you can see in the picture here, it is called myocarditis. They can manifest also with congestive cardiac failure, with shortness of breath. They can have a pericardial friction rub. Pericardial friction rub is an abnormal heart sound. As the fluid gets accumulated in the pericardium, as the heart contracts and relaxes, it is not able to adequately relax, therefore it results in that friction rub. Muffled heart sounds, the heart sounds will not be clearly heard, chest pain and a heart murmur. Murmur is a swishing sound that is heard when there is any valve damage or any problem, congenital heart defects, you hear a murmur. The next one is subcutaneous nodules. As you can see, this is a subcutaneous nodules, a small non-tender swellings. It can be found over any of the bony prominences such as feet, hands, elbow, scalp. Even in the scalp you can see scapulae and the vertebra. Then the erythema marginatum, as you can see, these are all reddish, non-puritic. Non-puritic means it doesn't cause itching. Non-puritic rash that begins on the trunk or arms as macules. You can see these reddish lesions. Next one is Sydenham's chorea, or otherwise called Senvitus dance, because it was found by him. These are sudden, more commonly seen in girls, where they can have sudden, aimless, irregular movements, as you can see, of the extremities, involving the facial grimaces. Suddenly the neck turns towards one side, speech and emotional disturbances, and muscle weakness. Minor criteria, so there are 5 major criteria: polyarthritis, erythema marginatum, subcutaneous nodules, carditis, Sydenham's chorea. Now we'll go on to the next one, that is minor criteria. They can have fever 38.2 to 38.9, that is 100.8 to 102 Fahrenheit. Arthralgia. Arthralgia is generalized joint pain and raised erythrocyte sedimentation rate, which is suggestive of any inflammation. Raised C-reactive protein in any inflammation or infection, the C-reactive protein will be raised. ECG will be prolonged. If there is carditis, they can have a prolonged PR interval. PR is that in an ECG you will find that P wave and the R wave, so you find that it will be prolonged. There will be a positive throat culture. When you take a throat culture, it will be positive for gram positive, mainly streptococcal infection. The streptococcal antibodies will be elevated. Any antigen, in response to an antigen, the antibodies will be produced. So you find that the antibodies will be elevated. It is called anti-streptolysin antibody titer, ASO titer, which will be over 333 units. So this indicates that the child has been recently infected with this organism. Now the diagnostic test is any two major or one major, any two major symptoms or one major and two minor symptoms. This confirms rheumatic fever. Coming on to the management is through penicillin. We give penicillin, benzathine penicillin for children every 28 days or every 21 days. Rest is very important. If they don't want penicillin injection, they can also take oral penicillin as twice a day dosage or erythromycin. Salicylates can be given like aspirin to reduce inflammation over the joints. Safety measures like falls have to be prevented. Fever management, for fever you can give antipyretics. You have to teach them about good nutrition and regular follow-up. If suppose the valves are damaged in rheumatic heart disease, you can do valve replacement, after which they have to be on lifelong warfarin. The next one is home care. Encourage compliance with drug regimens. They have to come for monthly injections. This benzathine penicillin is given as IM injection once in 21 days or once in 28 days. There are two regimens, so you can advise the parents to the children to come regularly for follow-up to receive the injection. Facilitate recovery from illness and emotional support has to be given. You need to teach them on home care, which includes nutrition, rest, activity restriction, especially strenuous exercises have to be avoided, and early management of skin or any throat infection, because that again can cause a serious complication called as the infective endocarditis, which I will be teaching you later. The second problem is congestive cardiac failure. Cardiac failure or heart failure is the inability of the heart to pump an adequate amount of blood to the systemic circulation to meet the body's metabolic demands. The main function of the heart is to pump adequate blood to the systemic organs so that the body's demands can be met. This is not being done by the heart because of some problems. So we will see the causes. Number one is respiratory diseases like pneumonia, especially in infants. Any congenital heart defects can lead to heart failure, weakening of the heart muscle, cardiomyopathy, or any cardiomyopathy. There are different types. It could be dilated cardiomyopathy where the heart muscle is stretchened, and it causes weakening leading to cardiac failure, myocarditis, anemia, arrhythmia, and hypertension. Clinical manifestations in children are poor feeding, poor growth. They can have leg swelling, especially they can have generalized edema, lethargy. They will look very dull, not very active, tachycardia, tachypnea, dyspnea, sweating can be there, forehead sweating especially. Oliguria can be there, that is decreased urine output less than 1 ml per kg per hour in children. Edema and neck vein distension. Diagnostic finding is by physical examination, where when you do a physical examination you will hear a gallop rhythm. Gallop is just like how a horse, when it runs fast, tuck tuck tuck, you hear, that's called gallop. And then hepatomegaly, puffiness of the face. ECG, chest ECG is done to rule out the rule out the cardiac activity, whether there's any prolonged PR interval. Chest X-ray is done to rule out for any cardiomegaly, cardiac enlargement. Echo is also done to rule out the blood flow and for looking for the blood flow through different chambers, and cardiac catheterization to rule out the pressure of blood in each chamber. Next one is management, is rest, Diuretics such as loop diuretics like Lasix can be administered. Digitalis or digoxin can be given. Usually for children we give 0.01 mg per kg. This digoxin improves contractility, it reduces the heart rate, because in CCF they can have fluctuations in heart rate. This tries to rhythm the heart rate not to a normal level and increases the urine output. Oxygen can be given to reduce the myocardial workload, and NG feeds if the child is having tachycardia or tachypnea. Fluid and salt restrictions, thereby the edema can and other fluid overload can be reduced. Strict intake output chart has to be maintained. Angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitors such as enalapril and captopril can be given. This also reduces the preload and causes vasodilation. Beta blockers such as carvedilol position the child in semi-Fowler's position and reduce crying, because the more the child cries, the oxygen demand is more. So monitor intake output chart. When you teach on digoxin, we need to teach the parents how to check apical pulse and not to give digoxin if the pulse in infants is less than 90 to 110, in young children is less than 70, and if it in older children if it is less than 60 per minute. We need to tell them about digoxin toxicity. If it is given more dosage, we need to teach them that they can have nausea, vomiting, anorexia, bradycardia or dysarrhythmia. So therefore teach how to give promptly and appropriately the right dosage. Infective endocarditis is the third problem. It is an infection. As the word says, infective means some infective process. Endo means the endocardium is the innermost layer of the heart. So here infective endocarditis is the infection of the endocardium and the heart valves. It is the main causes of bacteria and fungi. It can be following any invasive procedure or any medical procedures, following any surgery, deep cuts, or any work done in the teeth, maybe after some tooth extraction. The pathophysiology is the organisms enter the bloodstream, they grow in the endocardium and they form vegetations. Therefore it forms deposits more of fibrin and platelet, and emboli, it can block the whole valve. Signs and symptoms are low grade and intermittent fever. It can be as low as 100 and it can go up to more than 104, 105 degree Fahrenheit. They can have loss of appetite or loss of weight. Petechiae on the oral mucous membrane, as you can see, this is petechiae on the oral mucous membrane. They can have splinter hemorrhages that you can see, the thin black lines that you can see under the nails is called splinter hemorrhage. Janeway lesions are these. You find painless hemorrhagic lesions over the palms and soles. As if somebody has beaten, you will find the hands being red in color. Osler's nodes are red, painful intradermal nodes. They found on the phalanges, especially on the phalanges you can find Osler's nose. As you can see, that darkish black here and there, those are found on the pads of the phalanges. How do you diagnose infective endocarditis? Is through blood culture, echo, ESR or erythrocyte sedimentation rate. Hemoglobin and leukocytosis will be found where the WBC count will be increased more than 10,000. Treatment is antibiotics, especially penicillin therapy. Prophylactic antibiotics for invasive procedures. Suppose there is any tooth extraction, prior to that we need to treat them with prophylactic antibiotics. Rest is important. Antipyretics to treat fever. And heart surgery, the main final surgery is to replace the affected valve. Valvuloplasty is done. The important thing is about mouth care. We need to tell them about adequate oral hygiene, and smaller children and toddlers, we need to tell them about baby bottle syndrome, tell them not to, or nursing bottle syndrome, tell them not to feed by bottle in the night, tell them to clean the mouth after feeding, tell the parents to use toothbrush at 1 year, not to let the child sleep with the bottle, and tell them to also have regular dental visits. So hope you understood these 3 topics on rheumatic fever, congestive cardiac failure and infective endocarditis. Thank you.